Hello everyone, welcome to Options with Doug, streaming live on Monday and Wednesday at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time on Bookmap Discord and the Bookmap YouTube channel. Before I get started, I need to go through the disclosures. General disclosure. All Bookmap Ltd materials, information, and presentations are for educational purposes only and should not be considered specific investment advice nor recommendations. Risk disclosure. Trading futures, equities, and options involves substantial risk of loss. It is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. Here's my contact information. The best way to get in touch with me is through Discord. My name on Discord is Doug P. Also in Bookmap Discord, there's an Options-Doug chat channel. You can post questions, comments, and content related to the topics of my presentation and the topics of the channel that I'll go through in just a moment. I'm also on X. My name there is @DougPless. And I do have an announcement. This blue jacket, I don't know if it's really a competition with Bookmap. You can earn up to 3 months of Bookmap Global Plus for free, plus a blue jacket. I'll show you more details in just a moment. Here are the key tenets to my approach to trading. I believe that options trades and market maker hedging activity are key drivers of price in many stocks and futures. And that certainly applies to large cap tech stocks like the Magnificent Seven stocks, as well as the equity index futures like the S&P 500 and the NASDAQ 100. And for the S&P 500, SPX is the underlying index, SPY is the ETF version of that index, and the ES future contract is a derivative of SPX. And when traders buy and sell puts and calls in SPX and SPY, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with ES futures. And for the NASDAQ 100, NDX is the underlying index, QQQ is the much more liquid ETF version of that index, and the NQ futures contract is a derivative of NDX. And just like the S&P 500, when traders buy and sell puts and calls in it, NDX and QQQ, market makers take the opposite side of those trades and they hedge their delta exposure with NQ futures. And you'll see when I talk about ES and NQ today, I do focus on the underlying index levels. The focus of my presentation today and the focus of the Options-Doug chat channel is options order flow, the impact of options markets on stocks and futures, and the influence of market maker hedging flow on price action. I have a two-step process for trading, and the first is planning. And I use positional analysis. I look at how traders and market makers are positioned to the options market and how those positions change from day to day to develop a thesis regarding the expected trading range and volatility for the day, as well as a directional bias. And the second step in my process is execution. I look at real-time order flow in Bookmap and real-time market maker hedging flow in Spotgamma Hero to confirm my thesis from setups. And when I talk about setups today, I will be focusing on an underlying asset setups, and that asset can be taken with futures contracts, shares of stock, or options, depending on the asset as well as the way you like to trade. Questions and comments are welcome, and I will be watching both the Options-Doug chat channel as well as the chat in YouTube for your questions and comments. Please feel free to post. I'll do my best to answer your questions. Marge, I assume, welcome, glad you're here. Marge asks, can you show how to trade with gamma levels? Do we sell when price gets near a level? And then can you tell how to use gamma exposure, GEX? Yes, that's what I'm going to cover during my entire webinar. So I will cover all that during my webinar today and I'll show plenty of many examples. And thanks for the question. And again, welcome, glad you're here. Here's my agenda for today, Wednesday, October 8th. First of all, I want to go over news items, economic data, and events for today as well as the rest of the week. Then I'll go through my positional analysis. Then I'll review some setups from earlier today. Then I'll take a look at the live market. And note the FOMC minutes do come out at 2 p.m. today, and I will try and remember to stop whatever I'm doing and watch the S&P 500 to see if there's any reaction to the FOMC minutes. And then also note today there was a note auction, 10-year note auction at 1 p.m. We'll take a look at the S&P 500, see if there was any reaction to that. And of course, the government is still shut down, so no jobless claims tomorrow. But private data is still coming out. So Friday, 10 a.m. Eastern Time, Michigan consumer sentiment comes out to wrap up the week. And I believe there have been plenty of Fed speakers this week. I believe Jerome Powell is speaking tomorrow. I'm not quite sure when. And hello, K2 Rim. Welcome. Glad you're here. And thank you for your kind words. All right, let's move on. Now to positional analysis. Let's start with the S&P 500. So this is the ES Futures of Bookmap. And there's not really much of a reaction to the 1 p.m. bond auction, or the note auction, actually. And then let me just point out a couple of key levels. Then we'll take a step back, take a look at a higher time frame. So support this morning was the SPX 6720 volatility trigger, around that level. Key levels for today was the 6740 level. That was a positive gamma node. There was some consolidation around that level. And then SPX broke up to the 6750 level, which has been resistance for the last few days. And then now, ES found resistance at the ES upper daily expected move. All right, let's step back. Let's take a look at our higher time frame before I spend much more time on this chart. So I'm going to go to the SPX. This is the underlying index. This is a 1-year, 1-day chart for SPX and Thinkorswim. And the rally that began early in April continues. Let's focus on more recent price action. A little bit of a pullback at the end of August. Rally resumed in September. And then at September expiration, this is the monthly options expiration for September, there was a little bit of a pullback, and now SPX trading up to all-time highs. All right, let's take a look at a little bit shorter time frame now so we can focus in on the more recent price action. So I'm going to go to a 30-day, 1-hour chart. Again, Thinkorswim. And let me zoom in a bit here. We really don't need to see that 6,000 level down below. All right, so this is the rally resumption beginning of September. Right here, this red line, red vertical line, may be difficult to see. And on Tuesday, after expiration, there was a little bit of a pullback. And then the rally continued up to 6750. And that has been the resistance level. And then note also there was consolidation since last Friday between 6700 and 6750. And it looks like SPX definitely wants to break up above that level, the 6750 level. So pull back after September expiration, and then move up to 6750, consolidation between 6700 and 6750, and now SPX trying to break up above that 6750 level. All right, let's take a look at the levels on this chart. I'm going to start with the expected moves. Dashed purple lines are showing the lower and upper weekly expected move. This is based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX. From last Friday, those levels remain in place for the entire week. Then the dashed blue lines are showing the lower and upper daily expected move. This is also based on the options market, based on the closing price for SPX from from yesterday, I do post expected moves every day in Discord in the Options Dash chat channel for SPX, ES, and NQ. So we saw that ES was testing its upper daily expected move. Looks like SPX doing the same. I do calculate those levels independently or separately. And now let's take a look at the Spotgamma levels on this chart. They are based on gamma-weighted open interest. They're provided to Spotgamma subscribers. They're available on a variety of trading platforms. This is, again, Thinkorswim, a 30-day 1-hour chart. So I'm going to focus on the key daily levels. You really can't see the label here, but the put wall is at 66.80. And that's the strike with largest net negative gamma that can be expected to act as support. And just above that is the, let me redraw that. Just above that is the absolute gamma strike, L1 there, at 6,700. That's a strike with largest absolute positive and negative gamma. So that's where most of the gamma-weighted open interest is concentrated. Next level up is the volatility trigger just above at 67.20. That is Spotgamma's proprietary volatility and gamma flip level. Below that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is negative. In a negative gamma environment, market makers have to trade with price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to enhance or increase volatility. Above that level, market makers' position on the gamma curve is positive. In a positive gamma environment, market makers have to trade against price to hedge their delta exposure. That tends to subdue or decrease volatility. And we'll take a look. That is based on Spotgamma's older total open interest model. And we'll take a look at gamma based on their newer synthetic open interest model in just a minute or two. Then finally, the call wall remains at 6,800. That's a strike with largest net positive gamma that can be expected to act as resistance. And that would, if price breaks above 67.50, that would be the next natural target up above. And note both the volatility trigger and put wall shifted higher. Could be due to zero DTE positionings. We'll know more tomorrow. But again, those two levels did move higher compared with yesterday. And for SPY, the volatility trigger moved lower, and the put wall also moved higher. All right, so the key levels clustered in a pretty tight bunch there. All right, let's wrap up our view of SPX with a 1-minute chart. This is showing 6 days worth of price action. Let's zoom in just a little bit. All right, so about 4 days. So this is the key levels that I was talking about earlier. 6,700 and 6,750. And the consolidation, the movement up and down between those two levels for the last 4 days. And now SPX trying to break above that 6,750 level and also testing its upper daily expected move. And note one other key point today, that 67.20 volatility trigger that I mentioned before, acting as support just after the open and a good launching point for a long. All right, that is SPX. Hello, Amir. Welcome. Glad you're here. All right, so again, to summarize here, pull back to volatility trigger just after the open, and then a move up to the 67.40 and 67.50 level, and then the upper daily expected move just above that, and now some consolidation and positive gamma. Let's take a quick look at SPY, and then we'll get back to Bookmap. Change this to SPY. So the dark shaded regions are regular trading hours. So you can see the high yesterday, right around 673. And SPY has made it back up to that level, 673, finding resistance there. There's the SPY 670, absolute gamma strike, L1, volatility trigger well down below. And then this combo level, also in play for today, acting as support. All right, so right now SPY is stuck in a pretty narrow range between that combo 2 level and the 673 round number level up above. All right, back to Bookmap. All right, so I've looked at SPX levels and SPY levels, and I mark both of those on my chart in Bookmap here. So there's the key 6720 volatility trigger, that's SPX. And note there's a difference in price between ES and SPX today. And it's actually closer to 47 now. Earlier today, it was a little bit higher between 47 and 48. So I'm using 47 and a half. And let me change that. Oops. I can make that make that 47. Actually, it should be -1 there. All right. This is the price line spreadsheet that I use to draw those levels on my ES and NQ charts. All right, it'll take just a moment for that to update. So the 6720 level, and that is at ES 6767. So that offset is 47 points. All right, so that's the SPX 6720 volatility trigger. Above that, there's the SPY 670 absolute gamma strike. And this level, I'll show why that was in play, 6740 resistance level. And note the consolidation around that level for about an hour. And then there's the 6750 level. And ES, SPX trading just above that level. And then here's the ES upper daily expected move. So I have SPX levels on this chart, SPY levels, and also key ES levels, like the expected moves and the big round numbers, the zeros and the 50s. And we'll take a look at setups in just a couple minutes. All right, so those are levels in play, and we'll see more about why those levels are in play when we take a look at trace the gamma heat map. All right, let's take a look at NASDAQ. All right, remember, for the ES this morning, let's go back to that. ES, a little bit of a pullback right at the open, down to the volatility trigger. And on the other hand, NASDAQ, much stronger this morning. Not much of a pullback at all. Whoops. Not much of a pullback. And note also, this is the NDX 24,880 volatility trigger. All right, before I spend more time on this chart, note also NASDAQ now trading up to the QQQ 610 call wall. All right, let's take a look at those underlying index levels. So we can isolate the levels for NDX, QQQ, and they'll make more sense on this chart. All right, so let's take a look first of all at QQQ. So just like SPY, actually QQQ trading a little bit higher than the highs of the day, the early morning highs of the day from yesterday, and up above its 610 call wall. And then there's a couple of combo levels just above the, or one here shown here, just above the 610 call wall. All right, so that's QQQ, very strong day today. Let's take a look at NDX, the other underlying index. A little bit of consolidation around these two levels, and NDX also trading above its highs from yesterday. All right, back to Bookmap. So again, I focus on QQQ and NDX levels for NASDAQ, and also key NASDAQ levels, like the upper daily expected move. So remember, ES was trading up against its upper daily expected move, same for SPX, whereas NASDAQ is trading well above its upper daily expected move, again up toward the 610 call wall, and actually right around that level right now. And then key support right around the NDX 24,880 volatility trigger. And note, I do post the index relationships that I use every day in Discord. And we'll take a look at setups in just a couple minutes. All right, let's wrap up our positional analysis by taking a look at Gamma. Oh, here's the information about the blue jacket. So what you need to do is share your Bookmap chart highlighting order flow concepts, and then post it on X, LinkedIn, or Instagram, or all three, with the hashtag free blue jacket, and then you can win prizes. So that began at October 1st, and it ends at the end of the month. So mark up your charts, and that's also a good idea just for learning. It helps you understand setups faster when you can take your time, mark up a chart, and then recognize those setups in real time. So I've been doing that for several years, and I think it's very beneficial, but you can also win prizes by doing that. All right, so let's wrap up our positional analysis, and I want to take a look at the trace heat map. So this is showing, this is the gamma heat map for SPX. Blue shading indicates positive gamma. Red shading indicates negative gamma. Remember, in positive gamma, market makers are trading against price. That tends to subdue or decrease volatility. And then in red shading, we're expecting more volatility, faster price movement. So let's step back just a little bit. Step back in time. See how this is played out during the day. So I'm going to go back just after the cash open here. And this is that 67.40 strike that I mentioned before. Large positive gamma. Looking for price to move up to that level, and then perhaps for that level to act as resistance. So let's watch that bar as we step through in time, and then the bars above that. So overall on the left, those are GEX bars, gamma exposure. You can see as price moves up, 67.40 is increasing, the gamma increasing up at that level. And remember, price chopped around that level for about an hour. Now moving up above, and then this level up at 67.60 is now the next 99 percentile strike up above. All right, so there's still plenty of positive gamma up above, plenty of blue shading, and that 6760 strike still remains the strongest positive gamma. All right, so that's the gamma heat map. All right, let's move on. Let's take a look at some setups. I've got about 5 minutes, and then we'll watch the S&P 500 for a couple minutes to see if there are any reactions to the FOMC minutes. All right, so let's take a look at some setups, and I'm going to start with the S&P 500. And as always, I'm going to take a look at what options traders have been doing today. So this is the hero signal. So we've looked at levels, which are static during the day. They're based on open interest. They're updated once a day. And then the gamma heat map that we just looked at is updated every 10 minutes. And this is updated in real time. So what this chart is showing is options trades and market maker hedging activity for the S&P 500 index components. We've already talked about a couple of them, SPX and SPY, and there's also ES and XSP. The white line is price, so that's price for SPX, and the purple line is the hero signal. So that's showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for those 4 index components that I mentioned. And a rising hero signal indicates traders are buying calls and or selling puts. And a falling hero signal indicates traders are taking negative delta options positions. They're buying puts and or selling calls. And in each case, market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they have to buy or sell ES futures to hedge their delta exposure. So when traders buy calls, for example, market makers sell the calls, and they have to buy ES futures to hedge their delta exposure. All right, so let's zoom in a little bit. And I'm going to shift to puts and calls. I'm going to have to jump to avoid the auto zoom, jump back, and we'll take a look at this signal in just a minute. All right, so this is the S&P 500 index hero signal. And what this is showing is at the open, there was a brief bearish opening drive with traders buying puts, not doing much with calls. Then right around 9:45, traders started selling puts, buying calls, and the S&P 500 started to move higher. So starting right around 9:45, traders are buying calls, selling puts, price move higher. And that rally really continues. Looks like it slowed down a little bit in that positive gamma as the call buyers have taken the foot off the gas, and now traders are buying puts. So very bullish move up, and then pretty much consolidation in the call line after that. All right, so that's the first signal that we can take a look at for the S&P 500. And the next is the S&P 500 equity signal. So this is showing options trades and market maker hedging activity for all 500 stocks in the S&P 500 index. And this is showing that traders are aggressively buying calls. This line turned up before 940 and really continues to move higher. So when you're trading the S&P 500, whether you're trading ES futures or SPX options or SPY shares, you want to look at both of these charts. Typically, the S&P 500 equities charts is a little bit smoother and showing the overall trend and price action. And then the S&P 500 index signal is a little bit more noisy and shows the turning points a little bit more clearly. All right, so let's go to Bookmap now. And the FOMC minutes come out in a minute. All right, so as I mentioned before, there was a brief bearish opening drive, pull back to the 67.20 volatility trigger. The volume dots of Bookmap show market buy minus sell, and you can see, let me zoom in just a little bit. You can see sellers are exhausted. Magenta dots show more sellers than buyers, and green volume dots show more buyers than sellers. So sellers are exhausted. Aggressive buyers starting to come in. Price moves higher as traders are taking positive delta options positions in both the S&P 500 index components as well as the S&P 500 stocks. Cumulative volume delta shown by the dark blue line starts to rise, and then also the yellow line indicating stop orders. Buy stop orders help to fuel that move higher. And up to that upper daily expected move, and then that 6760 level, that large positive gamma, 99 percentile large positive gamma, is just above there. All right, so it's after 2, not much of a reaction to the FOMC minutes. All right, so there were plenty of pullback entries along the way. Pull back to VWAP. And targets would have been, initial target would have been the 6740, that strong positive gamma. And then as price spoke above, next level, next price target, 6750. And then finally the ES, upper daily expected move, and now that positive gamma up above at 67, 68, 67. 6807, sorry. ES 6807. Which would be the SPX 6760. All right, so that's the S&P 500. Not much of a reaction to the FOMC minutes. So we'll keep going. So just a bullish trend day here in the S&P 500. Gap up, pull back at the open, and then a move up to the levels that I talked about. And we'll take a look at Trace in just a minute again to see when we get to live market, see what's happening with the gamma. All right, let's move on to NASDAQ again. Stronger this morning. Launching point for a long, right at the 24,880 volatility trigger. And again, NQ trading well above its upper daily expected move, and now right at the 610 call wall. All right, so let's see what options traders are doing. Amir says book got thin. Let's see. We'll have to zoom in. Yeah, you're right. And thank you for that good observation. That often happens before data comes out. You can see all the passive orders shown by the heat map and Bookmap disappeared right before 2 p.m. That's that line right there. Most of the passive orders shown in the heat map. All right, thanks for that, Amir. Good observation. All right, so the move up continues. Back to NASDAQ. And market, Abu, welcome, glad you're here. Marky Mark, welcome, glad you're here as well. And you're welcome. Marky Mark wants to look at gold. I'll take a look at GLD when I get to stocks. I don't have gold futures, and there's really no options trading in gold futures that is shown by Spotgamma. So we'll take a look at GLD, and see what traders are doing GLD. So NASDAQ rally continues. A lot of aggressive buyers shown by the rising cumulative volume delta, that's a dark blue line. Also buy stop orders helping to fuel that move higher. Large traders are fading the move with iceberg orders, so far not getting their way. Pretty typical price action. Large traders selling strength and buying weakness. That's what they're doing in NASDAQ. All right, let's see what options traders are doing in NASDAQ. So just like the S&P 500, there are two signals that we can take a look at. Marge asks, so those are all gamma levels. Yeah, the gamma levels that I'm showing in Bookmap with the white dash lines and the labels. And Marge asked, do they prevent prices from passing them above? No, but they act as targets. And then typically I will expect a spot gamma level when tested from below to act as resistance. That's not always the case, as we can see in the charts. Sometimes price pauses there. Sometimes it blasts right through. So it just depends on the day. But I do expect spot gamma levels to act as resistance when tested from below. And I always confirm that by looking at order flow in Bookmap and hedging flow in Hero here. And Abu asked, do gamma QQQ gamma exposure in GEX? I'm not quite sure what you're asking there. If you're asking about the trace, if that's available for QQQ, no. It's only available for SPX. So this trace heat gamma heat map is only available for SPX. All right, back to Hero. All right, so let's move on to NASDAQ. So just like the S&P 500, there are two signals that we can take a look at, two Hero signals. The first is the NASDAQ index components. That's NDX, QQQ. We've taken a look at those levels before. So this is the chart that's showing price. White line is price for for NDX. And I've got calls and puts separated. All orange lines showing calls, blue lines showing puts. Directional lines indicates options delta, so a rising orange line indicates traders are buying calls, and they're aggressively buying calls in NDX QQQ today. Market makers take the opposite side of those trades, and they have to buy NQ futures to hedge their delta exposure. They're also selling puts. So this is a very bullish day. Call buyers driving price higher. That's for NASDAQ. Let's go to MAG 7. Same case. Call buyers driving price higher, and that continues. Go back to Bookmap. And the rally in NASDAQ continues. Launching point again, the 24,880 volatility trigger. Some pause consolidation at the upper daily expected move. And then just before 11:30, NQ broke up above that level, headed up to the QQQ 610 call wall, and is now trying to break above that level. All right, so that's NASDAQ. Let's take a look at some stocks. And then we'll get to the live market. All right, first stock I want to take a look at is AMD. AMD just continues to go up and up after announcing the announcement about the deal with OpenAI. A little bit of a pause yesterday, but a strong rally today. Let's see what options traders are doing. Let's go to AMD. And call buyers, and remember on Monday, call buyers were aggressively buying calls, but AMD moved lower, and now price is in sync with the call buyers, moving higher. AMD breaking above or trading up above the 210 key gamma strike. Bullish opening drive. A little bit of consolidation as the call buyers took the foot off the gas. More call buyers come in, more consolidation. Then after lunch, call buyers back in. AMD breaks above the call wall and continues to move higher. All right, so that's AMD. And part of a lot of the AI infrastructure stocks, semiconductors and other stocks, data center, and again, infrastructure, all moving higher. I think this may be based on an interview this morning on CNBC, Jensen Huang, for about a half an hour, and kind of a pep rally cheerleading session for AI, and AI is definitely strong today, and you can see that in AMD. So let's go take a look back to Bookmap. A lot of aggressive buyers, large green volume dots. AMD continues to move higher. And I've got too many lines on this chart. But anyway, you can see the key price targets at the zeros and the 50s, or the zeros and the 5s. Those are limit sell orders that come into the order book, typically at the open, as I've shown here, at 220, 225, 230. Those orders have been filled, been consumed. And AMD continues higher, now up to 235. And you can see the rising cumulative volume delta. All right, that's AMD. Let's check NVIDIA. AMD bullish day, but not nearly the same as AMD. All right, let's see what options traders are doing in AMD and NVIDIA. And this is a bullish opening drive. Traders buy calls, market makers sell the calls. They have to buy stock to hedge their delta exposure. Full alert comes in just after the open. And traders aggressively buying calls for about an hour. And then they've slowed down, and NVIDIA is now consolidating. And Abu says you did show SPX gamma exposure in GEX. Does QQQ have the same? Can you look at? No, sorry. Again, if you're talking about trace, the GEX bar is over on the left, gamma exposure. This is only available for SPX, unfortunately. Yeah, I'd love to see it for QQQ or other instruments. Now, there is one thing that we can take a look at for QQQ. Let's go to, we can open up Equity Hub. Let me move that over here, actually over here. We can go to QQQ. So this is kind of the same idea, except it's static during the day. This is updated once a day, whereas trace is updated every 10 minutes. So this is showing, all right, let's see where QQQ is trading right now. QQQ trading again right around the 610 call wall. So that's right here, 610 call wall. So this is showing all negative gamma for QQQ. And the high volatility point would be at 601. So there's that 600 strike, which is the absolute gamma strike. So that is the strike with the highest negative gamma, and that's the high volatility point. So as price moves up now towards 610 and above, gamma is increasing as price moves up. So that indicates that price may tend to lose momentum, decelerate as price moves up. All right, so a boo not quite the same as the gamma heat map for SPX, but that's what's available here in Spotgamma. All right, let's go back to Hero, and we'll go back to NVIDIA. So bullish opening drive, pullbacks at the open for long entries. But again, not nearly. AMD up over 20 points, NVIDIA up over around 2 points or so. But aggressive buyers, they took the foot off the gas after about an hour. All right, let's take a look at a couple of other AI infrastructure stocks. Next is Oracle. Oracle had a little bit of a choppy morning, but now moving higher. Let's see what options traders are doing on Oracle. All right, in the morning, traders were buying calls, selling puts. Calls shown by the orange line, puts shown by the blue line. Let's zoom in on this just a little bit so we can see this nice divergence setup in the morning. So from the open, traders are buying calls and selling puts. And then price was moving the other way, pulled down to the 285 hedge wall, setting up a very nice divergence long at the 285 hedge wall as traders continue to buy calls and sell puts. So nice divergence long. Then as the call buyers and put sellers took the foot off the gas and actually shifted to call sellers and put buyers, Oracle moved back down to and below the 285 hedge wall and then broke up above and now continues to move higher. And that happened about 11:20. All right, so let's go to Bookmap. So there's that first divergence long. As traders were buying calls, selling puts, price moved down to the 285 hedge wall, setting up a very nice long up to 290. Then traders started selling calls, buying puts. Price moved back down to 285, down below. Then aggressive buyers started to come in. You can see that large green volume dot, and now price back up above highs of the day. So a little bit of a choppy price action in Oracle earlier today, but overall moving higher as traders take positive delta options positions. Mainly call buyers driving price higher today. All right, next stock, SMCI. And there are many of these stocks that are moving higher today. So bullish day in SMCI. 55, key gamma strike. Nice entry point for long. Traders buying calls. Looks like they've taken the foot off the gas about 12:15. Now SMCI consolidating. So it's call buyers and put sellers driving price higher. A couple flow alerts come in. signaling significant options activity. Get your attention. Let's go take a look at Bookmap. Go to SMCI. There's that brief pullback to the 55 key gamma strike. Aggressive buyers start to come in. You can see the green volume dots, rising cumulative volume delta. Price targets 56, 57, 58. All getting a little bit darker. More sellers up above. Those limit sell orders in the order book. That's shown by the heat map and Bookmap. Act as magnets for price. Each case they were consumed. Now it looks like some sellers have come in just back above, up above 58, and maybe up to 58.0510, something like that. But the call buyers have taken their foot off the gas and price consolidating. And last stock I wanted to take a look at is Palantir. So Palantir was a little bit bearish this morning and now starting to move up. But this was a nice bearish opening drive. Traders selling calls. Price move lower. Traders sell calls. Market makers buy the calls. And they have to sell stock that hedges their delta exposure. But then they, right around 11 to 11:30, call sellers took their foot off the gas, started buying calls. Traders started selling puts more aggressively, and Palantir moved back up toward the highs of the day, and now put sellers, call buyers have taken the foot off the gas, and Palantir is consolidating. So let's go take a look at Bookmap. So overall, a pretty choppy day in Palantir. There's that bearish opening drive. Reversal at 184 just after the open. Not much of a move, especially compared to AMD. AMD was definitely the stock of the day. All right, that's Palantir. And options traders have taken the foot off the gas. Let's go check on the indexes now. Marky Mark wanted to take a look at gold. All right, I don't have GLD in Bookmap, but we can take a look in Hero, see what options traders are doing. All right, I'm sure everyone is aware of the huge rally in gold that's going on this year, has been continuing. So it looks like this morning traders were buying calls, selling puts, took their foot off the gas. Now it looks like they're aggressively selling calls. All right, so that's what's happening in GLD now. I don't track GLD, but this looks like a pretty decent number. Negative 319, 320 million. Delta notional for calls. Still slightly positive for puts. So net for the day, they're selling calls and selling puts. That's GLD. All right, back to the indexes now. I'm going to go to the total signal so we can combine puts and calls. Go back to the S&P 500. Looks like continues to grind higher. Let's check the equity signal. And just making a very steady algorithmic move higher. Got to be an algorithm driving that. Buying calls slowly and steady all day. All right, let's go to Bookmap. Back to ES. ES still stuck below its upper daily expected move. Let's go check trace. Let's zoom in on this just a bit. All right, so the gamma remains at 6760, which would be ES 6807, 99 percentile strike. And note there is plenty of positive gamma up above. Let's check charm pressure. This is buying support, selling pressure due to time decay. And this is showing current level of blue buying support with red selling pressure up above. We look for potential pinning targets between those two levels, and there's the 6760 level. And that is the obvious target for today, end of day target for today. Again, that's SPX 6760 and ES 6807. Back to gamma. Note the stability index is quite high, 93%. Not looking for a lot of movement. All right, back to Bookmap, and back to Hero, then Bookmap. So options traders that have been driving price higher, looks like now overall they've taken the foot off the gas. The Hero is not making, Hero signal not making higher lows and higher highs. It's trading more in a bit of range. Equity signal now maybe turning down. All right, back to Bookmap. Still struggling just below the upper daily expected move. And again, that 6760 level looms just above. Let's check NASDAQ. Now NASDAQ has moved up above the 610 call wall. And then there is a QQQ combo 4 level just above the NQ 25,300 level. Let's go back and check Hero. We'll check NASDAQ. Go to the index signal first. So now it looks like that may be pulling back a little bit. Mag 7 signal, which is going to be pretty much a subset, large subset of the S&P 500 equity signal, which is really the Mag 7 plus 493. Let's do one other thing. Let's check, see how much of the options trading today is in 0 DTE. That is the teal line. And actually for Mag 7, that would be options that expire on Friday. So it looks like less than half. That's the Mag 7 signal. We'll check NASDAQ. All right, so it looks like a much more larger portion of the NASDAQ Hero signal is 0 DTE options that expire today. That would be the case for the indexes, which have options that expire every day. So that's NASDAQ. Let's check S&P 500. And a good portion of that, actually, there's a strong correlation, but it looks like well, first of all, the numbers are pretty small. So it looks like a little bit over half this delta notional is longer term. So the delta notional for 0 TTE slightly positive, and delta notional for options that expire all expirations, that's the purple line, is negative for the day. So overall, it looks like 0 DTE options driving price today in the index components. Back to Bookmap. Let's go back to ES. All right, ES definitely finding resistance. It's at its upper daily expected move. It looks like that was to the tick, which was 68.0275. And again, I do post those levels, expected move levels, every day in Discord the day before. So that upper daily expected move, that was posted yesterday evening in Discord, yesterday afternoon. All right, everyone, my time is up. I want to thank you very much for watching. Thanks for your questions and comments. Everyone, have a great afternoon. And I will see you on Friday. Thanks again. Bye.